Hi Capricorn, welcome to my channel. My name is Kim. So Capricorn, for your meditative session today, I got first I got seashell, and then my reading got interrupted. I couldn't do it, and then I had to come back to doing the reading later. And when I came back, I got sparrow. The interesting thing about both of these symbols is that, or the spirit animal of the sparrow and symbolism of a seashell, is that they have so many meanings. They don't have one meaning, right? So the sparrow in Egyptian culture is the soul catcher. In Greek culture, it's love. And in Chinese culture, it's an auspicious, omen. And then the seashell, it was kind of the same thing. It meant protection. It meant prosperity. It could mean fertility. It could be significant of the womb. So I feel like that's the message, is that something that you're looking at, and it's kind of reminding me of this reading we had before with you guys. It was that there was no clear distinction, something wasn't black and white, it was gray. And it's kind of reminding me of that, where it's there's so many meanings to these words, and it's either your energy's kind of all over the place, but I don't feel like that. I feel like what it's trying to say is that there's something that you're looking at now that seems to be again, it's not something that is black or white. You know what I'm saying? There's no distinct meaning to any of these things. It can mean so many things. It's reminding me of the Phoenix Rising, right? The story has many it's very symbolic in many cultures, but each culture takes it differently. And that's exactly how I'm feeling for you guys. It's there's something about your energy, there's something that you're looking at right now that it's it isn't as it, maybe you saw it one way, right? This entire time you were this is that way, this is clear, right? And now you're looking at it and it's it's different, right? That's the energy I'm getting for you, Capricorn. It's there's no distinction between, you can't make a distinction right now, right? There's no way to make a distinction on something. That's what I'm getting. Now I feel something is very, it's free, mobile, right? There's you can't pinpoint something. So yeah, that's what I'm getting for your meditative session, Capricorn. Let's pull some cards and see what we get. So Capricorn, I feel there's a struggle here. There's a conflict, right? About seeing things another way. And we don't have the perception card here, but I feel there's some sort of change that has to be made, or it has been there's a change that you're trying to make, but it's hard for you. And I'm getting that here with the Two of Swords and the Five of Wands. It's there's a conflict. This is usually mental conflict for me. So it's there's mental conflict about, the scales of justice are here, right? So there's a conflict to me, but it's speaking to me about duality, right? With this white and the black, and it's reminding me of things are not black and white, things can be gray, right? That's what I was getting in the meditative session. It's all these symbols have so many meanings, right? It's how do you pinpoint it? And it's kind of reminding me of this. It's how can you pinpoint something as black or white when there's so many other things that it could be? And that's what I'm getting. It's there's conflict for you about seeing something differently, right? Or thinking about something differently. I think that's what's hard for you right now, is that things aren't what they have been, and now you're having to change your perspective on things, right? But I think this is all happening for a good reason, because we have the death and rebirth with the Seven of Wands, right? And I feel there's there's progression. Yeah, there's progression, because we have 5, 6, 7, right? 5, 6, 7. We have an 8. We have a 10, 11. Yeah, it's there's progression here, and I think it's a really positive thing that this is happening, but I think that it's, for you, it's hard. because it's changing the way that you see everything. So I want to say that I feel like by you being able to integrate this energy, this like whatever's happening to you right now that's changing your perception on how things are, like changing your reality in some sort of way, I think it's scary because it's like opening up your eyes for the first time, right? And it's scary. And I feel like when a baby opens up its eyes, when a baby's birthed, right, and it takes its first breath, right, it all has to do with like the pressure system in the body, and it like changes like the heart and all this shit happens. But the main thing is like the baby screams, right? Like when it takes its first breath, it screams. And I feel like that's kind of how you're feeling right now. It's like you're taking that first breath, right? And it's like scary. It's not like a comfortable thing, but I feel like it has potential to be really good for you, because like I see how like this top energy is so different from this bottom energy with like these cards, right? Like this is what we're struggling to do, right? But like once we do it, we have like a shift, right? It's the same thing as like what's happening in your mind, the shift in reality, right? What's happening in your 3D, like you shift your mentality a little bit, and then your whole reality becomes different, right? Like your whole 3D changes because your mind has changed, right? So you can't see people the same way, right? Like how can you see people the same way if you're thinking differently? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like a really big shift in consciousness maybe for you, and it's allowing you to see things differently. I think this is like not allowing you to be so stable, because it's like changing the way you see things, changing the way you see people, and then that's changing everything around you. So you're feeling like, what the hell is going on? I don't know what I'm supposed to, you know what I mean? It's like very conflicting, and then you're scared. But the thing that you need to know is that this shift is supposed to be really good for you. It's going to feel, I think again, it's like this death and rebirth is the main thing that you're feeling right now, which is like you want to scream, right? Like when the baby's born, the baby screams, right? And I think that's okay. It's like the baby in the womb. The baby wants to stay in the mom, right? It's comfortable. Like why would it want to leave, right? But then all of a sudden the baby gets too big for it, and it starts to like, it can't fit anymore. It has to go. And the getting out is a very stressful process, right? Like being conceived, being born is very painful for the mom. It's painful I feel like it's painful for the baby. I mean, like you're screaming and you're going from like, one environment to a different one. There's like a change of like systems basically. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the baby's stomach has to change, the baby's heart changes, the baby's lungs changes, the baby has to take a breath. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot of shit going on when a baby's born. There's a whole like thing going on, and I think it's actually very painful for both of them. So I would want to say like this could be very painful, or it could feel very painful, but the point of it is like after that pain and after that change, right? Like from like for taking the first breath and now like starting to use the lungs. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like the change in the baby, right, is like extreme, right? And I would want to say that the same thing is happening for you. Like the change is going to be very extreme, but I think it's supposed to be something that's beautiful, right? Because I have all these like really beautiful, like open, receptive, loving, like the heaven and earth card. It's the vibe, right? I'm not talking about anything specifically, but the vibe. It's so funny. It's so funny to me because with this emotions card, I was like, what is this like the birth of, right? Like, and I feel like it's reminding me of like, when someone, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. There's this show, Vampire Diaries. I know I'm talking about Vampire Diaries on this. I can't believe I am. But in the show, she like, every time something bad happens to her, she's able to like look at things from a loving way, right? Like she can still see things from a loving perspective. She can still see things, like give people the benefit of the doubt. Like even though things have like happened to her in her life, like she's like, you know what, I can still like be like the loving, caring me, because I can see like from everyone's perspective why they would do something like that hurtful, and it's like, I can forgive them. But like as soon as something like the most terrible thing happens to her, I think I don't want to give away like the most terrible thing happens to her, and like her brother dies, and from that she cannot like get through it. Do you know what I'm saying? She can't get through the pain. So they tell her like, like shut your emotions off, just shut them off, because if you keep sitting in your heart space, you're just gonna feel all the pain of your brother dying. So just shut it off, right? Just become like close off the heart space, right? And she does it, and she like literally changes as a person. Like she doesn't care about anything. Do you know what I'm saying? She's not working from her heart space anymore. And it's kind of reminding me with the emotions, that's the last card, is that like what's going on here? I feel like at first I thought it was a shift in like consciousness, but now I'm thinking, is it a shift from, it's like the same concept, but is the shift happening not in like consciousness, but from your like not working in your heart? Like you turned your heart off, right? Like you're like, I need to shut this off. I need to shut my emotions off. I need to shut everything off because it's so painful to work from this heart, right? Like something bad happened to you and you're like, you know what? I'm shutting this off. Like I can't deal with this anymore. And it's like, are you turning it back on? That's like what I'm getting now. It's like, because my, like with the emotions card at the end and then clarifying it, judgment, the magician, and Ace of Cups, it's giving me the vibe of like you're coming back around to your own heart. Like it's like, maybe for some of you this is like a shift in like actual consciousness, right? And a shift in like who you are, like you're changing, and like that's shifting your reality, right? But I feel like now I'm getting the strong vibe to like the strong feeling to tell you like that I think now that it has something to do with the heart space. It's like, did you shut it off? Like were you like in so much pain, you're like, I'm not gonna work in this space anymore. I'm gonna choose to work from like a different space, like a different reality. I'm not choosing to work from the heart anymore. I'm choosing to work from somewhere else. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, are you coming back to yourself? Are you coming back to your heart? Because with the Ace of Cups last, it's like, it's telling me, and the emotions, it's like, you're coming back to yourself. And I think that's what's going on here, Capricorn. I finally like think I figured it out. Shit. It's like the end of the reading and I'm like, yeah, I figured it out finally. But yeah, Capricorn, it's an intense energy to come back to that aspect of ourselves, right? I think we've all like tried from pain to like kind of turn our emotions off at some point in our lives. I feel like everyone has kind of done that. I mean, like I really understand that of like, if you can't deal with the reality of what's going on in your life, if like things are too painful for you and you just like end up crying every single day and you're like, you know what, I can't deal with like this pain, let me just like become numb. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like some sort of becoming like numb to everything. Like nothing's gonna affect me. I'm not gonna care about anything anymore. And I think like it only takes an extreme amount of pain to get to that level. So I understand it, but I think it's like a coming back to yourself, a coming back to the heart space, coming back to like a place of love. And I think that's why it's so painful, because you have to go to turn it like back on. I want to say, like that's where the pain comes from, right? Like turning that back on. I think it's actually really painful for you, because it's like that thing that you shut it off for comes back to like the forefront, and you're like, I still have to deal with, like, apparently you're gonna have to deal with it. Do you know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to deal with that emotion that you turned off. Like that thing that you turned it off for, it's like, it's still kind of there. You know what I mean? Like, you were like not here for however long you were, like you weren't processing it. You were just like I'm gonna shove it into the darkest corner of my mind or my heart, and I'm never gonna look at it again. I'm never gonna be the same person I was in the past. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, now I think I have to like turn it back on. I have to turn my heart back on. I have to come back to myself. And it's like, shit, I still have to deal with that like thing that I turned it off for. And I think it's like actually really painful for you. But I think there's beauty in this, like coming back to yourself, right? Even though it's really painful, I think it's like actually what you need to do, right? I think the reason that you have to, a part of the reason that you have to come back to it is like, I feel like you're not creating anything of actual value while your heart like is off. Like you're not really yourself. So what you're creating isn't really for you. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that's like kind of the reason why it has to be turned back on, because it's like you're not creating from your, like you're not being able to create things, right? Because you have the Magician here, and it's like, I think that it's saying that once you turn this back on, right, like you come back to the heart space, come back to the heart, right? Even though it's like really painful, it's like if you come back to it, you're gonna be able to like produce whatever it is that you need, right? Like with the Magician, you're gonna finally be able to go back to like creating. I think there's something here about creation and the fact that like you haven't been able to, right? You can't create something when it's when you're not coming from like the heart. Do you know what I'm saying? What are you creating then? If it's not, like, where does the desire to make things come from if it's not from the heart? Like, I don't know where else it could come from. It could come from like ego, it could come from like pride, it could come from like fear. But all those places of like making something come, like creating from there, like what would it create? I feel like it's creating like a Frankenstein baby. See what I'm saying? It's creating like, you know, in like the Nightmare Before Christmas, like he tries to make Christmas, but it's like he can't make Christmas right because it's like, where's it coming from? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's reminding me of that, some sort of. It's like, it's not coming from like the right place. And I don't know if that's like necessarily the moral of the Nightmare Before Christmas, but it's reminding me of that. Like, remember the gifts in the Nightmare Before Christmas? They were like rats, dead rats, and like shit like that. Like, it's like you weren't creating anything that you'd like want to keep. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, everything that you were creating was like on a different vibe. So it's like kind of like changing, it's like shifting worlds, right? Shifting, like, you know how he went from like door to door to door. It's like he's like walking through one door and he's like in one reality, and he walks to another one, he's in another reality. It's like what you want to create is in a different like door. So you have to go to like that door, right? You have to be like a part of that door. And the only way to like get into that door and be like a part of it is to go back to like who you are, right? I think this is great though. Like, it's a hard thing to deal with, but it's like a great thing to do, to come back to yourself, Capricorn. So yeah, Capricorn, this has been a lot for me. Let's pull some advice for you. Okay, Capricorn, so your advice is, you guys got dolphin spirit, this and that are true, number 20. This is reminding me of Virgo's reading. So if you are dealing with a Virgo or you have Virgo in your chart, I would just go watch Virgo, because literally this is what Virgo's reading was about. It was about how there could be two truths to a situation. Like there's like this person's truth, one person's truth, and my truth, and like your truth, and like someone else's truth. You know what I'm saying? We all have like our own perception on like what happened that day, right? And my recollection is not false, right? Mine might be different than yours, but like we were both there at the same time, seeing the same thing. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, why, even though our stories are different, mine's as true as yours is, right? And there's something here about that for you guys, and I really think you should watch Virgos, because I talk about it a lot. I talk about it for like 20 minutes, like this card basically, and this is your advice card. So I'd want to say go watch Virgos, but if you don't, I would just say there's something here about like the shift in reality, the shift in perception, like this and that, right? The like duality, right? Like where you're coming from and where you're going, right? Like who you were, who you've been, and who you're gonna be, right? It's like they can all be. There's something about like, I don't know if this has directly to do with you, right? I think this has a lot to do with the death and rebirth. The fact that like, I think there's just something to like help you with the painful situation that you turned like everything off for, right? I think that we turn things off from pain, right? And there's some sort of reflection that needs to be done on like when you shut everything off and you were like, I can't deal with this shit anymore, like I'm done. Like there's something that you need to examine in that situation that's really painful, right? And I think that there's something about that situation that you have to look at. Like that's what I would want to say. Like the reason that there's something about like when you shut it off and why you shut it off and what happened, and I think that this card will help you with that. And I also think this card is for the death and rebirth card. Lala, the saint of spoken words. Every word I say becomes a prayer. I am the author of my own story. It's like, how can you be it's about like speaking to yourself, obviously. Like, how do you speak to yourself? Do you speak to yourself positively? Do you speak to yourself negatively? Like, do you bring yourself up or do you put yourself down? Do you know what I'm saying? And I feel like right now you're like a baby, right? Like, this is you right now, right? And when I see her and like I think of soft-spoken words, I think of like someone like with a baby, right? Like the way that people talk to babies versus the way people talk to adults versus the way that people talk to children. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a different, like, there's a way that we like in the world talk to different like people of different age groups, and I think you're like the baby right now. So the way that you need to speak to yourself is like if you were your mom, you know what I mean? Or like think of a mom archetype. What is a mom supposed to be doing? She's supposed to nurture, she's supposed to like love, and this is going to help you get to this shift, right, that you want to be back into. But you have to go through this pain first, right, and like the birth, right, and it's painful. So I would say like this is going to help you, right? This and that are true. That like concept is going to help you figuring this out. But like once you go through it and you're like in the pain, right, be very loving towards yourself. Like, love yourself, right? Like, that's the main thing I can say to you guys. Like, love, as you're turning this back on, love yourself, right? It's going to be really painful. It's going to hurt, and you're not going to want to do it. And I would say, like, it's probably one of the most important things you could do, right? And I can't say why that is, because I feel like a lot of people go living in this reality, right? They'll live in this reality of, like, pain because it's easier than dealing with this. You know what I mean? So it's like the most important thing you can do is coming back to this space, but will it be easy? No. And will it be painful? Yes. And is it gonna hurt? Yes. And it's just the reality, right? And I think you're strong enough. I know you are strong enough to do it. I just think that you have to be soft with yourself. Like, you have to be like a mom would be to a child, soft spoken, like speak to yourself kindly, right? Like, pump yourself up, bring yourself up, right? I wish I could do it for you, honestly. Like, I don't know who you are, but I would say like you're doing the most important thing, and like I believe in you, and I know you can do it. So yeah, guys, I love you guys. I hope this reading helps you, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.